So here we are. This is the final push to get this thing on the road. I got a couple things to do to it. Shouldn't take more than a half hour, 45 minutes in YouTube time. Have to do things like the alignment, a cursory alignment. It needs a water pump. It's leaking out the front and kind of wobbling. Got headlights and the front directionals. Mine were all rotted out, so I got these from someone I know. Positive and negative battery cable, power steering, radiator cap. These are the chrome lug nuts that go with those rims. Miscellaneous stuff. I got the stuff for the trunk. I got the spare cleaned up. It needs a tailpipe. Here's the original. It's all rusty. I think it's like a 1.5 inch or something. This muffler is off that Barracuda that I got the suspension off of. It follows the same bend. The muffler that was on this Valiant was destroyed, so the only thing I need to do is get like a 1.5 to 2 inch piece of pipe and maybe like a hanger or two, and this is going on. And then the last thing is clean up the body, which I've kind of already started. So the first thing I want to do is address this water pump. The petcock unscrewed, no problem. It had a tiny clog in it. I've gathered up the antifreeze that has come out. This hose looks really good. It's kind of crusty inside because of the spring, but at least it has the number on it. I think I forgot to get a thermostat, but I might have one. And then I want to see if I can get this water pump off without taking the fan off. We'll see what happens. There is a hose going from the water pump up to the block. That might be a pain in the butt. I'd like to replace that hose. I don't have to take this off to do the water pump, but I want to check that thermostat. On the Belvedere Slant 6, the thermostat, it was a mess. And I think they had it on the wrong side of the gasket, so like antifreeze was getting around it. Something like that. And the leaf blowers have started. Yeah, that's a little clogged up with stuff. Finally got it, I think. So there's something this water pump has that the new one does not, and that's this piece right here, which conveniently keeps you from getting to this bolt with the fan on. So I couldn't get a socket on it because the socket with the bolt in didn't fit in between the pulley in here, and getting a wrench on this side wasn't possible, and getting it from this side was impossible because of this piece. If you look on the new one, it doesn't have that. So I'm not sure what the purpose is of this piece. It just doesn't make sense. But it's out. It's crusty. Got my water pump in. I did put some RTV on the engine side of this gasket. Little imperfections. And I always put a little bit of RTV around these corroded out hose bibs. I've just had them leak before, so it makes sense. Used a little of this OD abrasive mesh to clean up all my hose fittings and such. I'm gonna put some hoses on and then the belts and give it a good flush. It's weeks later and I'm back on this. It's been bitter cold and work and trying to find ways to insulate this garage. I had to rerun some electrical and I have this gaping hole in the ceiling in the back here that needs to be filled in somehow. It's just been too cold to do anything. So back on this, working on some of the electrical. I'm going to replace the positive and negative cable. This negative cable disappears in between this power steering bracket. I finally found where I can see it. I don't get it, but we'll replace it. And then I'll replace the positive one, probably clean up all the terminals. I ditched the painless positive and negative cable. They didn't have the positive and negative like leads on the terminals, which I like. So let's see if I can get this thing off. It's way down in there. I was just gonna cut this negative cable off and like ground it somewhere else, but there's a part of me that can't leave a piece of wire hanging off our steering mount for some reason. Got you. Wire reeled up the bolt and washer, get a nice ground, cleaned up where it's going. I had to drill out the hole in the wire in the fitting here just a tiny bit and then bend it so it fits. And right back in. Installed this ground hub. So I have, I think, the heater, the radio, and the rear taillights. I ran a wire out to the rear taillights, but the taillights aren't in yet, but just in case. And then this will ground right to the battery off this pigtail. So I don't have, 6, 7, 8, 10 wires going to the battery. Everything's grounded to the battery through the hub. Onto the positive terminal, which goes right to the starter, and then this wire goes up to the solenoid and feeds the interior and some other stuff. The charge wire should come here as well from the alternator. Alright, let's get this wire off the starter. Looks pretty clean. We'll clean it up anyway. Just want to take this off and clean it up. I don't want to twist it. Okay, now I'm worried about breaking off the nut. So, I'm going to leave it. Of course, one of the packages doesn't come with the nut. This was the positive. I remember looking through all the positive wires and they all looked kinked and destroyed. This one was the only one that looked decent, so I guess that's better than having the nut. It's not worth taking back. I'll just grab a nut somewhere. Battery time. Fixed up a new fancy ground wire. This will come off. I have the battery hold down, but I'm not putting it on because this battery is used in a couple cars right now. The only thing I'm going to hook up to the positive is this is my radio wire for like the memory. So I'll probably edit out me jibber jabbering, talking baloney. I just ran that on the wrong side of the brake line, so let's do that over. With that American Auto Wire harness for that dart, I tell you, it was a pain in the ass, but the easy part was everything was new and you could route it wherever you wanted, and I don't even think I had like the carburetor on or anything like that. Didn't have the dash. Well, I had the dash and didn't have the cluster in or anything that would get in the way. I may have had the seat in, which I always said I wouldn't put the seat in before I wired it so I could lay on the carpet, but I don't know. Pushing it around, I guess, without a seat. Maybe that was it. Pretty sure this is the ground for the headlights, which is probably terrible. So I can move that to here. And that's the next thing I'll probably work on. Getting these headlights sorted out. There's some kind of ground wire here. I think only this side works. The other side either blew out or doesn't work at all. The directional started working, but the housings are rotted out. So we gotta get these in. My understanding is the way they ground these things is this, like, it's like a compression or pressed steel, and then the light bulb housing grounds to this and to the car, which is just never good. Yeah, let's put a battery in it, make sure it starts. Never make these terminals correct, because the positive terminal is always bigger than the negative, and they're both the same size. So when you spread the positive one out, then the bolt is not running through the center of those holes. See, that terminal fits. You get the bolt in, tighten it down. The other one's tight before the bolt's tight. Interior light works. T2 only had one indicator on the dashboard. Lights are on. High beam indicator works. So I got, just said, one bulb out. I know the temperature gauge works. The amp meter works. Fuel gauge doesn't appear to work, but it doesn't really have much gas in it. So, and the horn doesn't work. I think it's time to get these headlights apart. Alright, let's get these out of here. These tabs usually break off. They're only like spot soldered on. Those are in good shape. A lot of times what happens is people will push on the screw that holds this ring on, and they end up bending that tab back, and then what happens is this will break off because it's stressed. But so far so good. Apparently they took the headlights out when they resprayed it. I'll polish those up before I put them on. Now that wiring cover, or just paper. Oh yeah, it's just paper. Safe something relief. Safe, probably lasting relief. I see heartburn, indigestion. Is this where you keep your Tums? It's a good hiding spot. So that grounds both headlights. So I'm going to extend this to my ground hub, so I don't have to worry about the headlights exploding anymore. Of course, white is ground. That makes sense. So I need to make this go back through this grommet, which unfortunately probably goes into the inner fender. So what I did was I popped this grommet out, and it's got kind of a X shape on the back. So I drilled a hole through it, ran the ground wire through, crimped it up, and then it comes all the way over through some stuff out here, and I'll hook it to this. And I just took this lens off, and yeah, that's a little rusted. It's so rusted, there's like nothing left. But that bulb still works somehow. The lens is in really good shape. I'll take that in the house and clean it up. I didn't see any remnants of a gasket, but there is like a little drain hole here. So I'll take these in. Oh yeah, there's a gasket. Look at that. I always thought these were interesting. On the Dart, it was the same way, with all like the headlight and the light screws that have this like swirl pattern on them. It's pretty cool. So when I mount this back in, I'll put a ground wire on this. This is right into the housing, which doesn't get better than that. I'll clean it up. It's like riveted in. I mean, these are in really good shape. If those can be grounded, that one on the driver's side is grounded here with that speaker wire, and it's all rusted out. The other one is just grounded with whatever ground is happening between two screws and this bolt. So I'll repeat this process on the passenger side, come back and see if the lights work and the directional. Look at the mound of rust in there. I don't even know where that would come from. That's insane. I don't know where that came from. It didn't come from the top. There's no hole in the top. That's crazy. Looks like some body filler here. Don't want to miss an opportunity to just put random body filler. That's crazy. It looks like there was water like right up to that halfway mark on that light bulb. Still work though. I've got all my ground wires run for my headlights and my directionals right to here, and then this goes right to the battery. There's my ground wire ready for the directional. The headlights were grounded, but they were grounded to right here, which was all like covered in paint and rust, and so now this is grounded. I cleaned up all the bezels with that quick glow stuff. I had to cut out gaskets because they don't make gaskets for these 62 Valiants. So there's a foam gasket here, and then there's one that goes on this side. You can kind of see the white foam. I had some white foam gasket left over from something. It's kind of like spongy. It's quite the difference. The lenses were on the car. They're perfect. They're not cracked, split, nothing. These things were destroyed though. I got new amber bulbs in these because they have the white lens. They need the amber bulb. And these had this gasket around the edge. It's like a split gasket. So what I did was just found the smallest piece of hose. I think it was like windshield washer fluid hose. And just cut it, split it down the middle. And then super glued it in the end so it doesn't come apart. And that's my replacement. And it's kind of a dead ringer, if I don't say so myself. So that's quite the difference now that these are grounded. And there's the taillight. Nothing like a good set of taillights. I like how they ever so slightly tilt outward. It's pretty cool. The only lights that don't work are the reverse lights. I tested it. I need a backup switch, but it's a push button backup switch, and it's like soldered on, the wiring soldered. It'll be another search and rescue and see if I can find something. But all the dash lights work. Horn works too. Horn did work. Okay, horn doesn't work. Horn did work, now it doesn't. That's great. Back another day. Today's goal, get this exhaust on the car. So I already cut the exhaust off the Valiant somewhat in the same place. I'll have to shorten this a bit. And this pipe's a little bigger because this came off my friend's 69 Barracuda. This will get me from that exhaust to the stock exhaust. I bought some hangers and clamps. Maybe I'll need them, maybe I won't. This is the original one off that Barracuda. It was right at the back of the muffler, but the rubber part is just about ready to give out. So I have these that I just had for some reason. So that's the goal. So I split the muffler from the pipe by cutting it just past where it was welded and just kind of working it out. It's a little rusty inside there, but it came loose. So I had that hanger just lying around. It's never been used, but it's old. And it actually ended up in the same exact spot where the hanger was on that 69 Barracuda, because there's like a mark there. I used the hanger here from the Barracuda. The rubber's a little worn out, but I think it'll hold. And when I cut this pipe apart, the bracket's actually on the outside of the tailpipe, and it's looped up under the muffler, that kind of flange that was created when I separated it, and then the clamp goes over it, so that's not going anywhere. And then because the Valiant exhaust is like 1.5 and this was 2, I just got an adapter. I hammered it in. It was such a tight fit. It took me like, you know, forever to get it in there, but it doesn't need a clamp, but this needed a clamp. So all in all, I bought a clamp. And I know this muffler has some rust. There's rust floating around it and I can hear it. There's a little bit of rust at the base here of it, but let's see how it sounds. That's an improvement. Something I should have done a long time ago. Okay, let's move on to something else. So these are supposed to be the correct chrome lug nuts for these Mopar rims. These came from Mega Parts, 7/16 20, 64 to 72 A by right hand thread. I looked all over for these and people are selling them online, like used ones for like a ridiculous money, but I didn't know you could get them new, so $15 for 10, I think it was. So $30 total. Well worth it. So these have the correct, I guess, conical shape to them, where the regular lug nuts, it's kind of a wider, shorter shape. Doesn't really line up. And these are for these rally rims. So I will not be using the impact on these. So I want to scratch them up and watch them rust immediately. And these rims aren't perfect, this car isn't perfect, but, and once again, these lug nuts were just ridiculously inexpensive. They don't seem cheap. They don't seem like garbage. I remember when I got this car, even with the rims all rusted and the tires all dry rotted, it had all the chrome lug nuts and it looked really good. Definitely makes a difference. So here's the Mopar Rally rim in all its glory. I even saved the valve stem covers. They're like little stainless things. It's like got a bevel on the top and a outward bevel on the bottom. That goes on the stem, and then it's got the matching cap, which is like got a bolt head kind of look to it. I don't know, I didn't really look, but I don't know if you can still get these, but it looks good compared to I don't know if they can see much of a difference, but black valve stem, regular lug nuts. Definitely completes the look. Alright, onward. Moving on to the body. What I'm going to do with this is scrub it down. So I have some of those green scrub pads. I'm going to use a little soap and just scrub the filth off. And the paint and all the other garbage that's within this paint. Because every time you rub your hand across it, your hand gets dirty. Some spots are really terrible. Like this, all the paint comes off. And there's still the filth from when it sat in that barn. I'm going to get off as much that will come off because I'm tired of touching it and getting it all over me. There's just a lot of stuff that I'm tired of flaking off gradually. Hopefully this will come off. And maybe the roof will clean up as far as the rust goes. I'm kind of digging how all the glass is still original. It's got the forward look marks on them. This is a forward look car, even though it's one of the tiny ones. Alright, let's get to it. This will be the test. If it doesn't work here, it's not going to work. Holy moly. I mean, I do have a DA, but I don't want to get that aggressive with it. That is completely acceptable. What a difference. Not as noticeable, but I did see it get cleaner as I went. I'm not getting covered in paint. Got one speck there. Alright, let's do one side of the hood. This side seems to have a more silvery tint to it. Should be able to get this off. It's like, it looks like some kind of mold or something. Alright, I'm gonna do this side. See what happens. And I could definitely scrub this more. I only really scrubbed it like there. But you can see the greenish, moldy tint to it. It actually looks a little more blue. Or clean, as some people call it. This corner had a lot of that silver in it, like this. That seemed to kind of take it away. Bondo. Well, that's a win. And the roof's definitely a win. So I'm going to continue with this. So I had someone stop by yesterday and got distracted, but this morning I came back out and started again with just scrubbing it with some simple soap and water, and what a difference. Once it dries, you can really see the difference. It also took off this silver, whatever this is. It's not really a silver paint, it just must be the oxidation, because it came across the fender and went up the cowl here, but even that's gone. And you can see the difference between the white on the fender and the door, and the roof is just like a new roof. I was considering painting it, but I'm not going to touch it now. This will probably be the last nice day of the year. I keep saying that, but eventually it's going to be true. So I'm going to work on this and get it done. It's going to be dark in like an hour. I think that's as far as we're going to take it. I'll get a shot of it when it's dry. But I'm definitely pleased. Here it is, all dry, sanded off, looking pretty good. I think I will buy some of that patina stuff from whoever. Like I said before, I don't really like the shiny patina. I hate using that word sometimes. But I don't want it to rust again, especially the roof. All in all, it looks really good. We're back on the exterior of this thing. I'm just going to hit it with some spray wax, window cleaner, and this is what I use on the chrome. It's called Quick Glow, made in USA. You can only get it from the guy who makes it. He doesn't sell it on eBay or anything like that. And all I do is take just a tiny amount of this stuff, like a real small amount. That's too much. Like that much on a rag. This much on the rag did this whole headlight bezel. This bumper's pretty shot. It'll shine, but it's got a lot of, I don't know what they call it. It's like haziness. So let's try this out and see what happens. So you just do little circles with it. A lot of times what I'll do is, after I use a section, like I've already done it here, and it builds up like this, when I do like other stuff, I'll use this part of the rag and like clean it until the stuff comes off. Just keep going, little circles. It'll take rust off. It'll take like overspray off. I've seen it take like complete rust right off to where it didn't even look like chrome when you started. But sometimes it's just too far gone. But it'll leave like a wax coating on the chrome, so you don't have to worry about those little pits coming back that it takes out. Wipe it down. So I did the top of this right here and all the way around, and compare it to this, Pretty shiny. But there's a lot of like haze and crackling in here that just, it's not gonna come out. Something like this, I'll probably take off and just take it in the house and to polish it up. That way I can get all into the edges and everything, get all that overspray off. I took this emblem in the house and did it, you know, just one night watching TV. And it's pretty pitted. It was pretty pitted. But the shine is there. It looks good. I don't know how well this shows up on camera, but this is what I started with. It's like hazy and large pits. And it makes it nice and shiny. Water will run off it. I did a section of the mirror here. It shined up really nice. The bottom of it I didn't do. But there's like a whitishness to it that it's not going to get that out. I mean, the chrome it's not that great on this car. But that's definitely better. At least it has a shine to it. So I sprayed waxed this thing, the whole thing. Didn't make it shine, but it should keep the water off. It's like smooth and slippery right now. It doesn't look any, it looks a little bit shinier, but the shine wasn't the purpose. It was to keep rain and water and snow off it if it's got to be outside or sit outside. I polished up this half of the front bumper, and hopefully it comes through on the camera. It gets rid of all that pitting and just junk. Definitely makes it shine. So I'll probably take this emblem off like I did on the rear and clean it up inside. This front piece of trim, I'm not so sure. I'll probably leave these on and clean them up on the car. Looking good though. Wrapping it up on this one. It is a running and driving car. It's been on the road for a few days now, and it looks pretty good. Drives nice, runs nice, starts nice. It needs a few things, little bugs to work out. I need to mount the 2 Signet emblems on the fenders. The fender emblems are these exactly, except the fasteners on the back are a little different, the studs. Basically everything works. The horn works intermittent. Smokes a little, but it runs. Doesn't overheat. Heater works. There's my homemade package tray, which looks very nice, if I do say so myself. Chrome has been polished up. Bumpers didn't polish up as nice as I wanted, but all the lights work. I'm digging these rims and tires. I think they were perfect for it. I never really cared for these style, but I think they make this car look really good. The rears are 225/70/14. The fronts are 205/70/14, which are the biggest that'll fit on the front. Otherwise you won't be able to steer the car. One thing that's a pain in the butt is the gas gauge doesn't work. But you can get a sending unit for these cars. You can't get the tank, but you can get the sending unit. But my tank isn't, it's not dirty. It's not filling the filter with dirt. I just love the lines on this car. You know, this fender to the door, the line that goes from the bottom up to the quarter, and even this roof line. And that is quite the body line, which continues all the way around the roof. And I really like these taillights, the way they have like an eyebrow, and they're ever so slightly tilted towards the outside on each side. Car's got the bumper guards, reverse lights. Looking good. Let's take it for a ride. Push button, pull the park, put it in gear. Power steering's a little stiff, but it seems to work. I've tried flushing it out, replace the hoses, but two-door hardtop. Pretty cool. Another old car saved, put back on the road. It's been just a year since I bought this, since we dragged it out of that barn onto that trailer. I've taken this out twice already. I just was stopped in the park and asked what it was and what year. And then I took it to the supermarket for its first outing. And these two guys stopped, total strangers, talking to each other. And they were saying how it's a 62 Valiant. They knew exactly what it was. The kid has already claimed it. She's taking it to school the next time she goes to school. So a big thanks to everyone watching and who's subscribed. And on to the next one. Reverse lights work. Just had to clean up the switch. And the horn works. Both high and low. Just want to say, this car will be driven. I mean, it's not that warm out right now, and I'm driving around, all the windows down, heater on, just to enjoy it. But we do this to drive these cars. So this car sat for probably 20 years, and it will be thoroughly enjoyed from now on.
What happened? We're good. Huh? Oh, okay. Yeah, you don't care if I get killed.